My brother stood in front of the judge and said, "I deserve everything. The house, the business, all of it. My sister contributed nothing." He didn't even look at me when he said it. He just stared straight ahead, confident, cold, like I didn't exist. The courtroom was silent. My hands were shaking. My throat was tight. I felt invisible. Then the judge looked directly at me. "Ms. Brennan," she said, "I'd like to hear your side." And what I revealed destroyed him completely. My name is Rachel Brennan, and I'm 36 years old. I live in Tampa, Florida. Or at least I used to. I'm not sure where I'll live after today. This court hearing is about my father's estate. He passed away 8 months ago from a sudden heart attack. He was 62. Healthy. Active. None of us saw it coming. My dad owned a construction company, Brennan and Sons. He built it from nothing. Started with one truck, one crew, and a dream. By the time he died, the company was worth over $3 million. He also owned the family home, a 4-bedroom house on 2 acres of land in a quiet neighborhood outside Tampa. The house I grew up in. The house where my mom raised us before she passed away when I was 12. My brother, Kyle, is 4 years older than me. He's 40. Married. 2 kids. He's always been the golden child. The son. The heir. The one Dad talked about when he said, "and Sons" in the company name. I was just there. Dad never treated me badly. But he never treated me equally either. Kyle got the attention. The praise. The responsibility. I got the leftovers. After Mom died, I became the caretaker. I cooked. I cleaned. I took care of Dad and Kyle while they focused on the business. When I turned 18, I wanted to go to college. I got accepted to the University of Florida. I was going to study business management. But Dad asked me to stay. "The company needs help," he said. "Kyle can't do it all alone." So I stayed. I worked in the office. I handled the books, the payroll, the client contracts. I did everything behind the scenes while Kyle worked in the field with Dad. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd go to college eventually. But years passed, and I never left. By the time I was 30, I'd spent 12 years working for Brennan and Sons. I knew every detail of that business, every client, every expense, every deal. But I wasn't listed as an owner. I wasn't on the paperwork. I was just an employee. Kyle, on the other hand, was named co-owner when he turned 25. Dad gave him half the company. Said it was because he was the son. Because he'd carry on the family name. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just kept working. Then Dad got sick. It wasn't the heart attack that killed him, that came later. Before that, he had a series of small strokes. They affected his memory, his decision-making, his ability to manage the business. So I took over. Completely. I ran the company for 2 years while Dad recovered. I kept it profitable. I expanded our client base. I hired new workers. I kept everything running smoothly. Kyle barely showed up. He was dealing with personal issues, he said. His marriage was falling apart. His kids were struggling. He needed time. So I gave him time. And I carried the company. When Dad died, I thought things would finally be fair. I thought he'd recognize everything I'd done. Everything I'd sacrificed. I was wrong. Dad's will was read 2 weeks after his funeral. Kyle and I sat in the lawyer's office, both of us tense, waiting to hear what Dad had decided. The lawyer cleared his throat and read the document. To my son, Kyle Brennan, I leave full ownership of Brennan and Sons Construction, along with all associated assets, equipment, and client contracts. My stomach dropped. To my daughter, Rachel Brennan, I leave the family home and its contents. That was it. The house. Not the business. Not a share of the company I'd run for 2 years. Just the house. I stared at the lawyer, unable to speak. Kyle leaned back in his chair, smiling. "Well, that's settled then." "This isn't right," I said quietly. Kyle looked at me. "What do you mean?" I ran that company for 2 years. I kept it alive while you were gone. And I get nothing. You get the house, Kyle said. That's worth at least $400,000. You should be grateful. Grateful. I felt my voice rising. I worked for that company for 15 years, Kyle. I gave up my life for it. You were an employee, he said coldly. Employees don't get ownership. I was more than an employee, and you know it. Kyle stood up. Look, Rachel. Dad made his decision. If you have a problem with it, take it up with him. He's dead, Kyle. Exactly. He grabbed his coat. I'll have my lawyer send over the paperwork to transfer the company into my name. You can move out of the house whenever you're ready. Then he left. I sat there, stunned, shaking, trying not to cry in front of the lawyer. I didn't accept it. I couldn't. I hired a lawyer. Her name was Angela Ruiz, and she specialized in estate disputes. I told her everything, how I'd run the company, how Kyle had disappeared, how unfair the will seemed. Do you have any documentation? She asked. Anything that proves your role in the company? I have emails. Contracts I negotiated. Financial records I managed. I have everything. Angela nodded. Good. We can contest the will. It won't be easy, but if we can prove you were a de facto partner in the business, we have a case. So we filed a petition. We requested a formal court hearing to challenge the distribution of Dad's estate. Kyle was furious. He called me 2 days after he was served with the court papers. What the hell are you doing? He shouted. I'm fighting for what I deserve, I said calmly. You don't deserve anything. Dad left you the house. That's more than enough. It's not enough, Kyle. I built that company just as much as you did. More, actually. You're delusional. No. I'm done being invisible. He hung up on me. Over the next few months, we prepared for court. Angela and I gathered evidence, emails, financial reports, client testimonials, bank records. We built a case proving I'd been running Brennan and Sons for years. Kyle hired his own lawyer. A guy named Tom Garrison. Expensive. Aggressive. The kind of lawyer who fights dirty. Tom tried to discredit me. He claimed I was just a secretary. That I had no real authority. That Dad only kept me around out of pity. It hurt. But I didn't back down. Finally, the court date arrived. I walked into that courtroom with Angela by my side, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. Kyle was already there, sitting with Tom, looking smug. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Langston. She had a reputation for being fair but tough. No nonsense. She called the court to order, and we began. Tom Garrison spoke first. He argued that the will was clear. That Dad had made his wishes known. That Kyle was the rightful heir to the business. Your Honor, Tom said, this is a straightforward case. The deceased clearly intended for his son to inherit the family business. There's no ambiguity here. Then it was Angela's turn. She stood up, holding a thick folder of documents. Your Honor, this case is anything but straightforward. Rachel Brennan wasn't just an employee. She was the operational backbone of Brennan and Sons for over a decade. She managed finances, negotiated contracts, and kept the business running while her brother was largely absent. Angela presented emails showing I'd signed off on major deals. Financial records showing I'd handled payroll and expenses. Client testimonials calling me the real boss of the company. Kyle's lawyer tried to dismiss it. None of this changes the fact that she was never a legal owner. Her father had every right to leave the business to his son. That's true, Angela said. But what Mr. Garrison isn't telling you is that Rachel's father made a second will. The courtroom went silent. Kyle's head snapped toward me. What? Angela pulled out a document. 3 months before his death, Mr. Brennan drafted a new will. He never finalized it because he passed away unexpectedly. But the draft clearly shows his intent. She handed the document to the judge. Judge Langston read it carefully. Her expression didn't change. What does it say? Kyle demanded. The judge looked up. It says that Rachel Brennan was to receive 50% ownership of the company. Kyle's face went white. That's not legally binding, Tom said quickly. It was never signed. It's just a draft. It shows intent, Angela countered. It shows that Mr. Brennan recognized his daughter's contributions and wanted to correct the inequality in his original will. Judge Langston set the document down. I'll take this into consideration, but I'd like to hear from both parties directly. Mr. Brennan, please approach. Kyle stood up and walked to the front. He looked confident again, like he'd already won. Mr. Brennan, the judge said, can you explain your role in the company over the past 5 years? Of course, Kyle said smoothly. I worked alongside my father for years. I managed crews, handled client relations, oversaw projects. I was his right-hand man. And where were you 2 years ago when your father had his strokes? Kyle hesitated. I was dealing with personal matters. But I stayed involved. Stayed involved how? I checked in regularly. I made sure everything was running smoothly. Did you manage payroll? No, Rachel handled that. Did you negotiate contracts? Rachel handled those too. Did you oversee day-to-day operations? Kyle's jaw tightened. Rachel handled most of that. But I was still involved strategically. Strategically, the judge repeated. So you were absent from daily operations for 2 years, correct? I wouldn't say absent. Answer the question, Mr. Brennan. Kyle's face flushed. Yes, I was less involved during that time. Judge Langston nodded. Thank you. You may sit. Kyle returned to his seat, looking less confident now. Ms. Brennan, the judge said. Please approach. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked to the front. Ms. Brennan, can you describe your role in the company? I took a deep breath. I did everything. I managed payroll. I handled client contracts. I oversaw project budgets. I hired and fired employees. I kept the books. I maintained client relationships. When my father got sick, I ran the entire company by myself for 2 years. And during that time, did your brother contribute? No, Your Honor. He was rarely there. Did he make any major decisions? No. Did he bring in new clients? No. Did he manage finances? No. Judge Langston looked at Kyle. Mr. Brennan, is this accurate? Kyle looked furious. She's exaggerating. Am I? I said, my voice stronger now. Then explain why every client contract from the past 5 years has my signature on it. Explain why every bank record shows my name as the account manager. Explain why every employee I've spoken to said I was the one keeping the company afloat. Kyle stood up. Because you were the secretary. That's your job. I wasn't a secretary, I said, my voice shaking with anger. I was a partner. I just wasn't treated like one. The judge held up her hand. Mr. Brennan, sit down. Kyle sat, his face red. Judge Langston turned to Angela. Do you have additional evidence? Yes, Your Honor. Angela pulled out another folder. We have affidavits from 3 former employees, all of whom confirmed that Rachel was the operational leader of the company. We also have bank records showing that Rachel personally guaranteed a business loan 2 years ago when the company was struggling. The judge looked at me. You guaranteed a loan? Yes, I said. The company needed capital, and the bank wouldn't approve it without a personal guarantee. Kyle refused to sign. So I did. How much was the loan? $250,000. The courtroom murmured. Judge Langston leaned forward. Ms. Brennan, if you personally guaranteed a business loan, that suggests a level of ownership responsibility beyond what an employee would take on. That's because I wasn't just an employee, I said. I was a partner in everything but name. Kyle's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, this is irrelevant. The will is clear. Sit down, Mr. Garrison, the judge said sharply. I'm not finished. Tom sat down, looking uncomfortable. Judge Langston looked at Kyle. Mr. Brennan, did you know your sister guaranteed a loan for the company? Kyle didn't answer. Mr. Brennan? Yes, he muttered. And you allowed her to take on that financial risk while you were listed as the owner? I didn't ask her to do that. But you benefited from it. Kyle didn't respond. Judge Langston picked up the draft will again. It's clear to me that Mr. Brennan Sr. recognized his daughter's contributions. This draft will shows his intent to correct an imbalance. The fact that he didn't finalize it doesn't erase that intent. She looked at both of us. I'm not going to invalidate the original will, she said. But I am going to rule that Rachel Brennan is entitled to compensation for her contributions to the company. My heart started pounding. Ms. Brennan personally guaranteed a loan that saved the business. She managed operations for years without proper compensation or recognition. She is entitled to 50% of the company's current value. Kyle shot to his feet. What? No. Sit down, Mr. Brennan. That's $3 million. Actually, the judge said calmly, it's $1.5 million. 50%. Kyle's lawyer whispered something to him, but Kyle shook his head, furious. This is insane, Kyle said. You can't do this. I just did, Judge Langston said. You have 3 options, Mr. Brennan, the judge continued. You can pay your sister $1.5 million in cash. You can transfer 50% ownership of the company to her. Or you can sell the company and split the proceeds. Kyle looked like he was going to explode. I can't pay her that much. I don't have it. Then transfer ownership or sell, the judge said simply. I'm not giving her my company. It's not your company, I said quietly. It's our company. It always was. Kyle turned to me, his face twisted with rage. You did this. You destroyed everything. I didn't destroy anything, I said, my voice steady. I saved it. And now I'm getting what I deserve. Kyle's lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, trying to calm him down, but Kyle shoved him away. This isn't over, Kyle hissed at me. Yes, the judge said firmly. It is. I'm issuing a court order. Rachel Brennan is entitled to 50% of the business or equivalent compensation. You have 60 days to comply. If you don't, the court will force a sale. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. Kyle stormed out of the courtroom without looking at me. His lawyer followed, muttering apologies. I stood there, shaking, barely able to believe what had just happened. Angela put a hand on my shoulder. You did it. I did it, I whispered. Outside the courthouse, I sat on a bench and cried. Not from sadness. From relief. For the first time in my life, I'd been seen. I'd been heard. I'd been valued. And I'd fought for myself. It's been 4 months since the court hearing. Kyle refused to transfer ownership, so we sold the company. Brennan and Sons was purchased by a larger construction firm for $3.2 million. After taxes and legal fees, I walked away with $1.4 million. Kyle got the same. He hasn't spoken to me since. His wife left him 2 months after the trial. She said the stress of everything broke their marriage. I feel bad about that, but not bad enough to regret what I did. With the money, I did something I should have done 20 years ago. I went to college. I enrolled in a business program at the University of South Florida. I'm 36 years old, sitting in classes with kids half my age, and I don't care. I'm finally doing what I want. I also started my own consulting business. I help small family-owned companies with operations, finances, and management. Turns out, running a $3 million construction company for 2 years looks great on a resume. I have 3 clients so far, and I love it. The family house, the one Dad left me in the will, I sold it. I couldn't live there anymore. Too many memories. Too much pain. I bought a small condo near the beach. It's mine. Just mine. And for the first time in my life, I feel free. A few weeks ago, I ran into one of Dad's old friends at a coffee shop. He recognized me. Rachel, I heard about the trial. I'm sorry it came to that. I'm not, I said. He looked surprised. Your dad would have been proud of you, he said. He always said you were the smartest one in the family. I didn't know what to say to that. He said that. The man nodded. All the time. He just didn't know how to show it. I left the coffee shop with tears in my eyes. Maybe Dad did recognize me. Maybe he just didn't know how to say it. Or maybe he was too stuck in old-fashioned ideas about sons and legacies to break free. I'll never know. But I do know this: I don't need his approval anymore. I don't need Kyle's approval. I don't need anyone's approval. I stood up for myself. I fought for what I deserved. And I won. Not because I destroyed my brother, but because I refused to stay invisible. If you're reading this and you've ever felt overlooked, undervalued, or taken for granted, especially by your own family, know this. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to stay silent. You don't have to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. I spent 15 years waiting for my father and brother to see me, to value me, to treat me like I mattered. But they never did. So I stopped waiting. I stopped hoping. And I started fighting. And you can too. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. And it might cost you relationships you thought were important. But your dignity, your worth, your future, those are more important. I lost my brother. Maybe forever. And that hurts. But I found myself. And that's worth everything. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Share your experiences. Let's lift each other up. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about standing up, speaking out, and taking back your power. Thanks for listening.